Welcome back to Goblin Town Hobbies. In this video, I'll be painting a Bretonnian Peasant Bowman. There are so many different colors you can paint your Bretonians, and I actually had a difficult time picking which one I wanted to do for this video. But at the end of the day, I was looking at all the Old World content being released, and I ended up picking the Dukedom of Brionne for my color scheme. The Warhammer community page was a great place to look at all the reference images and photos of all the miniatures for the colors, so I ended up going with a darker red and black color scheme for this Peasant Bowman. I was originally going to go for more of a gaudy 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy look because of the age of the mini. He is from that. Without further ado, let's get painting. I started off with a first coat of Blood Angel's red contrast paint for the tunic. And this is going to hit all of the areas on the tunic. And I'm not going to worry about misplacing it too much, though we do want to keep it pretty neat and not hit any areas that have to be lighter, such as the skin. And this is just, like I said, going to go all over the main tunic. It can hit the belts, it can hit the buttons, all that stuff. That stuff is all going to get painted over later. I really like to take my time with the first base coat. Contrast paint, I find, tends to stain quite quickly. So, having to reapply it would be a big pain in the butt. But going in and just getting the main torso and the lower part of the tunic kind of helps block in the color for the figure. And like I said, I'm just taking my time with this step. Make sure each area of the tunic, including the underside, is covered. With these old plastic miniatures, sometimes you don't see certain aspects of them, so I'm not too worried about underneath. It's a very simple sculpt underneath his tunic. There's almost nothing there, and you really can't see it when you're looking at him at most angles, so I'm not worried about it too much, but I do go over it a little bit. Now I'm going to hit the arrows with Skeleton Horde. Just really focusing on the shafts and trying to get as much in the recess as possible. I'm going to be going over this again later with layers, so it doesn't have to be super neat, but it provides a solid base color to work off of. And now I'm going to use that Skeleton Horde again to hit the longbow. We'll go in with Snakebite Leather contrast, and I'm going to hit each of the leather parts, so his belt, the little leather wrap on the bow guard, and I'm also going to hit his shoes with this. Just being careful not to hit the red too much, as that'll stain it a different color, and we don't want that. And we're also going to cover his pouch on his side. Again, just being very selective about how we do this and where we place our contrast. I just really want to focus on getting all the pigment in the recesses and not as much on the flat surfaces. Here I'm going to do a base coat on the skin, just being extra careful with the face and trying not to get it on his hood and cap. I use 50-50 mix of Panzer Ace's Shadow Flesh and Vallejo Model Color Flat Flesh. I'm just going to go in, and that is going to be diluted a little bit with water. I find the Vallejo paints cover very, very well, so you don't want to thin it too much to break apart the pigment. It would be better to over thin than to put on too much. Right here, I'm going to take Vallejo Dark Steel, and I'm going to paint his helmet. And really, the only other area I'm going to use this paint is on the bowstring. I'm not sure the exact name of it, but on his arm, the piece on his arm. Here I'm going to hit the boots with some brown contrast paint. I believe this one was snakebite leather. Right here, I'm going to be dotting his buttons with some leather brown. You could use any brown you'd like. I'm sure some variety with buttons and little details of archers, Bretonnian archers would look nice. Right now I'm just giving his fingers and some parts of his face a little bit of a highlight with medium flesh tone from Vallejo. You can always work your way up to a lighter layer, but sometimes I find that if you do a base layer and then you wash it, you only need to highlight with that original base layer color. And here I'm going to be highlighting the arrows. I think I just went in with the plain ivory. Right here, I'm going to be base coating the hood capelet with a Vallejo flat black. I really didn't know what to paint this, so I went with something darker overall. And then after, I'm going to go in and edge highlight parts of it with some dark grays. Right here, essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give the bow a wood grain effect. So I'm taking a lighter brown. I don't believe I used anything special for this. I think I just mixed a little ivory into the brown that I had used for the bow earlier, and I'm very carefully streaking vertically across the bow. This is more of a artistic choice. You don't have to do this. I feel like in a large Bretonnian army, you're not going to notice details like this, but I like to do stuff like this. And I'm just, like I said, very carefully going across the bow. Right here, I'm just going to give his face and his hands flesh wash. I believe it's Gulliman flesh shade, or Reichland flesh shade. I don't remember the name of it, but it's the contrast skin tone. So here I am doing his trousers in a medium blue from Vallejo again. Couldn't think of anything else that would go well with the red, so I thought keeping it a bit classic would be nice. So here I am going in and highlighting the tunic with a little lighter red, and I just added a little bit of Vallejo yellow to this. Mixing it with the flat red from Vallejo. Forgot to mention that. No, I'm doing the same to the blue trousers. I took a little of that ivory color that I used on the bow and I put it into the blue I used for the pants. And I'm just going to highlight it on his knees and the top part of his calf, just avoiding any shadow areas. And finally, I'm just going in and doing some touch-ups to the boots, to the arrows, and anywhere I see that I need a touch-up or a fine highlight, I'm going to go in and hit that now. This took longer than it should have, but I am very much a perfectionist, so it's hard to always just hit everything the first go around. But definitely, if you're doing this, try to get all your highlights done and step by step. Oh, and one of the last things I hit, I was meaning to do this earlier, but I couldn't decide a color, so I finally decided to paint the fletchings on the arrows like a light gray, and then I'm going to go in and highlight with a even lighter gray. So here's our finished Bowman. This video took way longer than it should have to come out. In the meantime, I had a lot of life changes, but I'm hoping to get back to these real soon and doing more painted tutorials for YouTube and for all my subscribers. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. Hope you'll join me again soon.